Today, I'll be reading from the movie Superfly, one of my favorite movies of all time.
You may know him for his spot-on impressions, but his career, it's so much more.
I'm just getting started.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's because I wake up with fresh legs every day. I don't wake up thinking about my resume.
But the resume, it's impressive with movies, TV, and comedy, but he's still all about chasing his goals.
I never wait for Hollywood to give me an opportunity. I'm always creating my own opportunities.
You know what? Enough of me talking.
Yeah, you might want to shut up, because I'm really good at this.
Actor, comedian, Affion Crockett.
On the Pulse.
Guys, welcome to another episode of The Pulse. We're always bringing in people who are doing cool things, sharing their stories. I gotta admit, I'm always a little hesitant when you got comedians, improv folks, because the host of the show always ends up being the target. So you gotta be careful.
As long as you behave, you be all right.
We'll be all right?
You be safe. Yeah, man.
Affion Crockett, comedian, actor, producer, doing all kinds of things.
Yes, indeed.
Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, man. I like what you've done with the place.
Right. We have. So I was sharing the story of behind the scenes. But it's interesting. This was our supply closet.
Nah, but that goes to, the ingenuity of, I'll say it, black people.
Right.
Okay? We gonna figure it out. Okay? You give us a pig, we gonna make some chitlins out of it.
That's interesting. Starting there, and it's completely off the beaten path. Mm-hmm. But the biggest challenge in doing this show was getting folks to come in and have the discussions and kind of sit down.
Right.
When you're making the decisions to do that kind of thing, because you don't have to do a
Right.
lot of this kind of stuff. You got millions of followers on your own promotional outlet on social media.
Right.
When you're making the decisions, what makes you decide to do them?
To come sit down with you?
Not just me in general, but different shows.
I mean, when we're doing like a comedy tour or a venue, right? They have their contacts and who are their credible pool of press outlets.
Okay.
And so, once it's on the list and once my agency is sending it to me, I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. And when I'm in a local city, I like to sit down with who's moving the culture there. So
Okay.
that's what makes it worthwhile for me.
Credible was
No
the
doubt.
key.
No, of course.
But I feel like someone like you could sit down with somebody even if they weren't. Like that would be the wrong person to pick a fight with.
But I wouldn't.
Fair
You know
enough.
what I'm saying? Because everyone now that has a phone, which is 7 billion people, everyone thinks that they're a journalist now, and they have a podcast. And I get DMs all the time that I never open, but I can see the message. Like, hey man, love to have you on my podcast. Timing is everything.
Right.
Because there was a time in my career when I would run up to people and say, hey man, give me a shot, give me a chance. And that wasn't the time. So I looked crazy to them, and I didn't take it personal.
But you had to put in the work, as you said. So that's kind of the message. Put in the work, put in the grind. I mean, you're still putting in the work even at this point in your career.
I feel like I'm just getting started.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's because I wake up with fresh legs every day. I don't wake up thinking about my resume, because the resume can actually weigh you down.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Think about that, right? They tell you if you're, in an accident, like say you're on a cruise ship, right, and it's going down, don't try to grab all of your luggage.
Right.
Because you're going to sink. Yeah. You're going to sink trying to swim with all of your belongings. So leave that stuff there and start fresh.
I like it.
So I wake up every day like with that
Ready to
mentality.
grind.
Yeah.
All right. Take us back a little bit, because we're talking about this kind of walk through the success, and you're continuing on that path, doing research and looking into, you're still, because I was on your Instagram, still a hip hop dancer.
Yep.
Still somebody who does that. You got started pretty young. Like, how'd the career get started?
Talent shows, you know what I mean? My parents would take me and my brother to whatever talent show was in town. We would win a lot of them. A lot of cash prizes, at the time was like $25, $50, but that was everything to us. Or a trophy, to win a dance contest. Something that you practice in your living room, bedroom, and you take it to a live stage in front of a crowd, and then you actually win when you're up against other people who did the same type of practicing. That's the first bit of confidence that you need, right? And so that's what I needed. That was the boost that gave me the confidence to be able to stand on a stage and know that the audience was probably going to like what I was doing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then in the 90s when Def Comedy Jam was the biggest show in the world, I wanted to be on it. You know what I mean? And I just was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get on this show, but I'm gonna start trying to do comedy. I'm gonna mix it with my dance talent, and that was my path. I set out to get on Def Comedy Jam because I figured if I can make it there, I can do anything.
Def Comedy Jam was tough. Def Comedy Jam was like the Apollo. Like,
I
be
did the
careful
Apollo.
what you wish for.
I did the Apollo in '92, and did Def Jam in '95. So Apollo was my breeding ground. Me and my dance crew, we went on Apollo, and they loved us on there. So again,
right.
I was like, we didn't get booed off. We didn't win because they gave it to a gospel singer, that competition, but they stood up for us and was clapping, and they loved what we did. So I was like, wow, I just came to New York. A kid from North Carolina just came to New York City, Harlem, at the Apollo on 125th Street and got that crowd to stand up and clap and cheer. So it was a battery in my back.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because as dancers, comedians, the Apollo could be tough. Yeah. You mentioned the gospel singer. I feel like black people won't boo the gospel singer because we feel like,
look, if you singing a Fred Hammond song off key, they gonna boo you.
I don't know. I feel like it's in us. Like, people start singing gospel and we're like, oh, all right, baby.
Well, you're not
Keep
booing
going.
God. You're booing the misrepresentation of God. So get your butt off the stage, man.
People stood up for you at the Apollo.
Yeah.
You do Def Comedy Jam. You continue to grow. Which one of those was the big break? You got the feeling at Apollo. Mm-hmm. When did you go, all right, this isn't a feeling, this is a career?
Honestly, I got to give credit to Nick Cannon with Wildin' Out. Getting on the shows to make me feel like I was in the right direction, heading in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Coming up, for us, his impressions are hilarious, but for him, it was really just his stepping stone.
Was it impressions that got you started in comedy? That's what a lot of people know
you
for.
Yeah, impressions is what gave me the confidence to stand on stage in front of Def Comedy Jam.
Finally gave us a black superhero, and you made sure we didn't miss it. You put it in the title, Black Panther. And black people, we were so excited, we overdid it. We went to the movie theater with dashikis on, and I'll take 10 tickets to see Black Panther, please. Sir, you just cut in front of 50 people. Let them wait.
So it's interesting. We've had guests on who have mentioned the strike that's taking place right now.
Yeah.
People are out. T.I. was just here, and he's on tour doing comedy. Some of the guys who were with him were on tour doing comedy. Mm-hmm. They said that it has allowed them the kind of downtime, unfortunately, gotten back in touch with some of the other ways to get out there and go on tour. Was that part of the reason you're doing comedy? I mean, you never stopped doing comedy.
Yeah, I never stopped doing comedy. Comedy is, I did for a period of time, but since I've been back for the last 8-9 years, I haven't stopped doing it. So, yeah, comedy. Look, black people are always on strike in Hollywood. Let me just say that. They don't hire us often, as often as they would like to make it seem like they hire us. So to have ingenuity and figure out other ways of making money and other ways to be creative, that's always been my thing. I never wait for Hollywood to give me an opportunity. I'm always creating my own opportunities.
It is a fight then standing up for the fact that the industry needs to change. The industry needs to open up those doors.
Yeah, it definitely needs to change way beyond what this strike is fighting for. There's a lot of changes that the industry needs to make. If we'll ever see them or not, I don't know.
Was it impressions that got you started in comedy? That's what a lot of people know
you
for.
Yeah, impressions is what gave me the confidence to stand on stage in front of Def Comedy Jam and in front of an audience, period, a black audience specifically, right? Because make no mistake, I got started in the black community, in the black comedy clubs, the black night, right? And I have to make that distinction because in the 90s when Def Comedy Jam was a thing, it was the black audience, the black fans that made us celebrities. They didn't care that whether we were polished as much as, other TV shows or other comedians. They cared about, man, I just like this dude. So that's why you got the Cedric the Entertainers and all the Steve Harveys and all those guys, because not only were they were already funny, and Bernie Mac, right? But they reminded you of an uncle or a cousin, or You know what I mean? And black people invest in that. Black people invest in family. So that's where I got my start. And to be able to impress black people, you gotta be funny. And so for me, being able to do impressions of Bernie Mac and Chris Rock and these different people, it just gave me a boost to say, oh, I could do this.
I mentioned to you, Cedric the Entertainer was here, and he went all the way back to talking about the Kings of Comedy back in the day when they did that tour and had ownership of it. Right, in a lot of ways, it was their thing. He said not only did that help him grow, and I'm hearing some of that from you, but it also established, this is my community, this is, you know, who I'm going to serve for the rest of my career, because they're here with me as I'm going forward.
The community doesn't leave you, and you have to give them the, you know, you have to service them correctly. You have to service them correctly and keep that core sacred.
I'm always curious. We've all seen Jay-Z. We've seen quite a few of them. And I know that that's not what you focus on most of your show anymore, because you're continuing to evolve. Anybody ever just get an attitude over the impersonator? They've all been cool with it?
It's been a fun journey, because I think if you listen to what I do when I do the impression, I'm actually paying homage. Even if I'm making fun of the person, I'm still paying homage to them. So they know that about me at this point, to the point where some have asked me, how come you haven't done an impression of me? You know what I mean? So they respect the fact that I'm one of the guys that can really depict them in a way that is favorable.
Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, Cedric the Entertainer, all folks who are, you know, on social media, they're your people. In real life, are y'all that tight-knit, got each other's back kind of fraternity?
I would say we're tight-knit. Like, these aren't people that I speak to every day, but there is a respect level when we see each other that's everlasting. You know what I mean? Okay. Like, I mean, I can get any one of those guys on the phone. Like, we're all cool. But again, I don't fake like I'm best friends with anybody. Yeah. But there is a lot of respect, and these guys are my heroes. These are guys I look to. Like, even though as much as I joke about Kevin Hart, it's undeniable what he's been able to accomplish. So yeah, he's somebody I even though he's younger than me, I look up to him. I admire her.
I'm sorry, the obvious joke.
I know.
And we're not friends. So
I look up to him if I'm laying down on my back. Yeah. Right. But he's definitely somebody that you got to look at as you know, he's a pioneer. He's broken records in this comedy business. Chappelle as well. Like they're people to aspire to be.
Next on The Pulse, what he thinks about how people respond to comedians who get raw and real.
I just write the truth, and if the truth hurts, you got them shoes on. Those are your shoes.
Let me ask a very legit question. It's just because I'm curious.
Go ahead.
Do you put the hair grease on your face, or does it go on your? Why are you shining right now, you oily?
I was sweating because I was scared.
Tell us about the tour. So you're going around. Saw some of your clips. The fun part for me is you sitting down just talking to the audience, going back and forth. Be careful what you wish for.
Right.
But what are people going to see when they come see your show?
You come and see me talk about life in a real way, and you got to get involved, because I'm talking about things that people in the audience feel a way about, because I might be talking about you or something that you do. And most people's reaction when you speak something true to them is to defend.
Okay.
Is, you know, they want to defend if it sounds too close to home, you know. And I have to remind them, I said, well, I don't know anybody in here personally. So if you feel a way and you want to yell out and defend yourself, you just told me that what I'm saying is true.
Right.
And true to you specifically. So I tend to stay on those people that yell out. And
so the message is,
you might want to shut up, right? Because I'm really good at this.
So it's performance, it's interaction, it's just a whole.
Yeah, it's storytelling, it's performance, interaction, it's all of it. It's singing songs. Like, I talk about music a lot because music is a big part of my life as well. But yeah, it's a full package, bro.
Can't talk about some of the specific shows, but what do you like the most? Is it that interaction, the improv stuff that you've done? Competitive comedy has been impressive. And to me, That looks like the part that would be the hardest. But for somebody like you,
Which part?
The competitive stuff.
Yeah, so for me, it's I do love the improv space because I feel like that's where the most organic comedy comes from.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The industry itself, we've seen over the last several years, you've seen people who, as comedy continues to evolve, some people are taking it personally, rushing stages. Some people are then having issues about you can't say anything because you're concerned about people trying to shut you down. What do you feel about the industry as a whole? Growing in the right direction? We getting too restricted? Is it
It's
still fun
definitely
for you?
it's too restrictive. People need to lighten up and put their feelings in their back pocket.
Okay. Do you feel that? Do you see that people are getting too kind of hard on those types
Oh
of
yeah,
things?
you can't say anything. You can't say anything. I say whatever I want to say, but it's a very sensitive society that we're in, and it's hypocritical. The things that people choose to tell you can't talk about, yet they run off and talk about whatever they want to talk about. So at this point, I don't write and produce comedy to placate anyone's feelings. I just write the truth, and if the truth hurts, you got them shoes on. Those are your shoes.
Okay. So it hasn't changed you. You're aware of what's going on in the
Yeah, I'm
industry.
aware, and I've always been respectful anyway. But at the end of the day, you're not going to tell me what I can and can't say.
The evolution of social media, and I was over on your Instagram page, and a couple million followers there, and that's just one location. Has it changed the fact that you now can just do it yourself? That you don't have to wait for the industry to do anything?
Oh yeah. On social media, we're competing with algorithms, so everyone doesn't really see what you're doing. So you have to kind of push through that and find your fan base and and harness your core. But it's definitely doable. You can go direct to consumer now and bypass the middleman.
And that's changed how people have done stuff for the better, and particularly
1,000%.
for the African American community.
1,000%.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, that's why you have famous TikTokers, because whoever's on their page is now a fan of what they're doing, and they didn't go to any agency, any production company. They can just broadcast right to those people on their phone and make millions of dollars.
Yeah. So I need to get my numbers up, is what you're saying.
Do it all. Get your numbers up, get your promo game up. For sure.
Is it creating freedom?
1,000%. Anytime you don't have to go through a bunch of approvals and red tape to get your creative idea out, that's where the creative freedom lies.
Hi, children. I'm Dr. Maya Angelou, and welcome to my show, where I read excerpts from blaxploitation movies. Priest sits down on the dingy sofa, licking cocaine residue from his fingers. As Eddie sits on the adjacent sofa, Priest turns to him and exclaims, "I'm getting out, Eddie."
Can we ask what's next for you? I mean, you're on tour, and we just have to say secretly we got projects brewing.
Yeah, all I can say is I'm in a really great space, and there's a lot more on the way.
Okay. So can we say next time you're on tour, when hopefully this is settled, and we can speak on some of the specifics of
There's
it?
going to be a lot to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about.
Yes, indeed.
All right. And I didn't even ask you to do impressions, man.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for not. Thank you for not asking.
But that's one last question then. It's something that people know you for. It's something that people always talk about. Is it something that you still enjoy, or is it that person who has become the character? Whenever anybody sees you, they want to talk about that one character.
Yeah, I do it when I feel like I want to do it. Because I've been on interviews before, and they'll try to prompt it and set me up to do it, and I just won't do it.
What do you think about Jay-Z?
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
And so, I just won't do it. But yeah, I do so many other things that I'm not limited to just impressions. So, it gets a little old sometimes, but I understand that it's also something that I've done well, and people enjoy it. So I can't be mad at them for wanting to see it.
Right. Just accept that there is more to the story.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
And accept that I'm grown, and I do what I want when I want.
I'm grown.
Yeah, I'm grown.
I feel like that's the mic drop moment.
I'm grown.
So one last time, tell people when they can see you, where they can see you, what they're going to see as you continue on tour.
Just stay locked into my Instagram at Affion Crockett, my Facebook, Affion Crockett. TikTok is Affion Crockett Comedy. But yeah, just stay tuned into my social media and you'll see everything that I'm doing.
Yeah, it's a good follow. You talked about the concept of using your voice, doing positive things with your voice. Whole theme of this show is use your voice for good.
Right.
When you hear that as a theme, what does that mean to you?
Using your voice for good is uplifting people. Not trying to be destructive, not trying to do anything for shock value and at the expense of someone else.
Guys, thanks again for watching another episode of The Pulse with Affion Crockett, who is doing a lot of things. But what's interesting is that it also speaks to the challenges of the ongoing strike. As to what people can talk about, what they can share, and the reason why it is an important and relevant issue. So I'm glad he was able to touch on some of that, his comedy, the things he's involved in, and we look forward to having him back. If you are interested in more, kind of the behind the scenes, you can also check out the podcast, all places that podcasts are available. Just hit like or subscribe. And we always remind you to head on over to YouTube, check out some of the past episodes, some really great guests that I'm sure that you will enjoy.
And make sure you're always watching, because coming soon on The Pulse, celebrity Iron Chef Jose Garces.
I didn't have a lot of guidance. I didn't have a lot of mentors.
And I leave you today, as I always do, reminding you whenever you can, use your voice for good and have a good one.